The Four Absolutes of the Oxford Group. Absolute Unselfishness. Part 2. My name is Steve Van Adderstein, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. I am extremely happy to be getting back to the rest of this Absolute Unselfishness chapter. This has been a fantastic experience for me doing this particular absolute. The other two, Absolute Honesty, was incredible. Absolute Purity was fantastic as well. But this one's just, it's getting to the core of some really important stuff. Some stuff that's extremely relevant. You guys gave a lot of great feedback on the first part of Absolute Unselfishness, and I'm really grateful for it. And it resonated with a lot of people. And that's been my personal experience as well with this absolute unselfishness. It seems to be great at showing me what I need to do better. This is probably one of the ones that is most relevant to me, is absolute unselfishness. So I'm ready to really dig into this second half of the chapter. So let's get right to it. We're reading from What is the Oxford Group? Dun-dun. And we're reading the Four Absolutes. And this is the third absolute we are digging into. The last one will be absolute love. We will start next week. But we did the first half of absolute unselfishness last week. I encourage you to go check that one out. The videos are posted on YouTube and Spotify. You can find links to it all over the place, though, even on X and Instagram, TikTok, wherever you would like to find us. So give us a like, share, subscribe, whatever you'd like to do. All of it's appreciated. So here we go. This is part 2 of Absolute Unselfishness from the book, What is the Oxford Group? In these days, pride is becoming a worldwide obsession. More than ever, people are judged and given place according to their possessions, rank, feats, and accomplishments. Even some kinds of humility are the worst form of pride. Many people are proud of being nobodies. After all, I'm only a nobody is a silly expression of pride we hear far too often. For what shall a man be profited if he shall gain the whole world and he forfeit his life? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his life? Some national heroes are really world heroes. They bring, through their sheer pluck and determination, new possibilities of living to everyone. But who will deny that the modern mania for record breaking is not often fostered by national selfishness, jealousy, and pride? If an airman of one country flies around the world or across a continent in a few days or hours, a man of another country attempts to beat that record in a less number of days or hours. Having accomplished that feat, another airman of another country starts off to beat him. Dangers, death, what are they when we are beating a record? Think of the prestige of our country, of the mayors and corporations who will turn out in their full regalia to greet us when we land. Of the cheering crowds who would not be there to cheer if we had failed. Think of our basking in the glaring limelight of publicity. At least until someone more intrepid or more unimaginative than us beats our record. Think of the advertisement we bring to the manufacturers of the materials we use for our feet and the money they pay us for risking our lives to advertise their goods. What fun life is! But where and when will this ridiculous worldwide mania end? Whether it be for Olympic Games that have no comradeship in their motives, stunt flying football cup finals that are more notable for the size of the huge crowd watching than for the game itself, pole squatting fools, nonstop dance records, starving men and women in barrels, or sporting matches in which the size of the purse is often more importance to the public than the sportsmanship. In record making or breaking, even a second can make one man greater than another, a quarter of an inch another man a national hero. We do not need to be carping spoil sports, or to have great knowledge of crowd philosophy, to envisage the great danger to civilization, this change from healthy competition to widespread worship of the god of selfish pride and jealousy, this abnormal idolatry of feats has become. Other civilizations have worshipped that same God towards the ends of their glories. Is that a sign that we are towards the end of our civilization now? Jealousy is selfishness. It is that extreme domination of self which is the most unprofitable side of mankind. It does nothing for the lasting advantage of any man, and more to make the world as a whole less happy than any other failing. Jealousy is a collective sin as well as an individual one. It can destroy a nation as easily as it can impel individuals to do things which they may regret for the rest of their lives. None of us know to what end our jealousy about even a small and unimportant thing will lead us. A small jealousy can, in time, become an obsessing giant. Murder is no unusual result of a jealousy which has never been checked from its small beginnings. To a certain degree, we are all jealous and vain. Which of us can honestly say that we are not vain of our possessions, success, position, self-restraint, liberty of action or thought, accomplishments, religious beliefs, agnosticism, goodness, or wickedness, or jealous of other people's? The family that eat very little so that they can save enough to buy themselves a piano they cannot play because their neighbors have a piano they can play are not more foolish than we who give up things in our lives in order to be equal to our neighbors in any respect. Jealousy, envy, pride are the cause of our own little wars which we fight with our relations, friends, or neighbors, either in a private or in a public way. Or in public life, Before these petty wars with others can cease, we must make peace within ourselves. We know it is as useless to compete with someone who refuses to compete with us as it is to play a game with someone who will not play. If we stop, the war stops. If we are not interested, those who go on fighting, their joy and zest in the fight evaporating. Go on fighting, find their joy and zest in the fight evaporating. Aloofness from wars of jealousy, envy, and pride does not necessitate our being self-satisfied. It merely requires spiritual common sense, plus a sense of humor. Selfishness contributes a great deal towards class hatred. Universal waste in these days of glaring poverty is criminal, but who is going to stop it? Governments? Laws? Revolutions? Those who have more than their fair share of worldly goods hate criticism. We don't waste, they would say. Even if we did, it is ours. Why should we not waste it? We can do as we like with our own. Selfishness. Is it your business what it is? In your own way, you are selfish too. So why should we not waste our money, food, clothing if we feel we want to? Although there are many rich philanthropists who help the needy along, that is the attitude of some of those who spend as much on themselves and luxuries in a day as others can afford on bare necessities in a year. To these harmful few, absolute unselfishness seems an impossibility or a remote fantasy in a disordered mind. They think they are owners by right of possession. How often some of us say that possession is 9 points of the law. That is what selfishness is. When we allow our spiritual and mental possessions to possess us. A man without wealth can be just as selfish as one with a fortune. We can and do waste our physical energies and spiritual possibilities as flagrantly as wealth is wasted. Our spiritual potentialities for individual and universal good, as much as human life and materials, are wasted in abortive endeavors to make the world better by human means alone. Nothing can take away that vital, invisible part of each one of us, which is God's alone. Because it is invisible, some of us think that part of us is non-existent, forgetting that things we cannot see are often more important than the things we can. By trying to the best of our abilities under the direction of God, we can, if we take to ourselves absolute Christ-like unselfishness, arrest this world spread stupendous waste of goods, good materials, and equalize the positions of our fellow men. Neither laws nor civil bloodshed can ever accomplish this change to just administration of wealth and possessions. It is the duty of each one of us to bring Christ into the problem. That's the end of the second half of absolute unselfishness. And I don't know about you, but it sounds like that was literally written last week. It sounds like these problems that they were facing 100 years ago that drove this chapter to be written, and the observances they saw of absolute selfishness, pride, jealousy, ego. They saw this coming a mile away. It's been a problem for a long time, but I can tell you it is manifested in a way today that is incredible. It is such a scary, intimidating, overwhelming problem that has been going on for a very long time. That's the amazing part about it. It has been going on for a very long time. And it seems as though they saw this coming. They saw a lot of the issues we have today. They saw it coming. You know, that first line it opened with, in these days, pride is becoming a worldwide obsession. Now, the just absolute irony, I'm going to call it, that today, in today's day and age, we have Pride Month. So you want to talk about obsession, and I'm not criticizing the demographics and the people that participate or what it's targeted to bring awareness to. But the fact that pride is now being celebrated, right? Worldwide obsession. It's absolutely incredible. We have whole months dedicated to it, right? And being proud, but that's just a piece as well. I just want to say, like, this pride in our identity, who we're identifying as and what we believe we are, who we believe we are, and just taking that egotistical pride. It's such an unhealthy way to be. It's an unhealthy obsession with self, right? You're taking pride in some identity you are assimilating to, or you find yourself associated with, maybe. And it can be anything too. I don't want to keep this narrowed to one demographic by any means. This can apply to anything. This can be, as we'll find out, but any identity claim that you have, whether it's race, creed, sexuality, gender orientation, any type of demographic that you want to identify with, right? This is to take that and bring it into your personality and to have pride in this piece of you. It doesn't mean you have to be ashamed of something, but at the same time, you don't need to make it your entire identity. You don't need to sit there and let it completely overtake you as an individual, right? Because you're a human being first. You are a child of this world, this universe, the God of your understanding, right? You are a child of God first, and then you have all of these other things that you might associate with. But that gets lost in this, the egotistical pride of people being associated with their title at work, or the money they make, or the car that they drive, or the sports team that they have an association to, or the whatever it might be, what demographic you come from, like the socioeconomic background you have. People wear that as a badge of pride, and it differentiates, it separates us from others. It makes it, it's so divisive, right? This applies to everything. Everything we build our selfish, self-centered identity and pride on, right? We define ourselves by everything external to us, and that's a problem. That's a really big problem, because when that gets taken away, then who are you? You become lost, directionless, miserable. At least that was my personal experience. The job titles, the labels that I assumed as maybe being in charge of people or being in a relationship with somebody, right? We take those and we identify with those and we become that thing. And when that thing can be taken away from us, we are reactive, right? We become offended. We become hurt. Our pride becomes injured. Our ego becomes injured. And guess what? It never works out well. Never works out well. And then we get into this pretty quickly, this claim of people only doing things just to be able to say they did it, right? And take some selfish gratification from it, and people doing things solely for property, prestige, for money, popularity, so for fame and fortune. These things are so unhealthy to be driven by, right? To be dependent upon, because what happens is when you identify with something like that, you become dependent upon it. You need it continuously then, because you have defined yourself by it. You can't let it go, right? So let's, I really enjoyed that first line. And then they said more and more, or more than ever, people are judged and given place according to their possessions, rank, feats, and accomplishments. That's what I was just talking about. But even some kinds of humility are the worst form of pride. Many people are proud of being nobodies. After all, I'm nobody is a silly expression of pride we hear far too often. And I hear that a lot. I hear it a lot from people in the spiritual realm of YouTube and self-help. I'm nobody. But it's used a lot of time in this spiritual pride type of way. I've ascended so far to realize I am nobody. And though I understand what they're trying to say, and though I see where they're coming from, you can't use that to abandon any responsibility you have to your fellow man. You can't use that to abandon any responsibility you have to the God of your understanding, right? I'm nobody. That doesn't mean you're actually nobody, right? You are one person in a sea of billions. I do understand that concept. But the reality of it is you have responsibilities to God and others to put what you've been blessed and given out into this world to help grow and help other people find their way. You don't get to just remove yourself, right? I'm nobody. What's it matter? It's something that is really harmful to many people, actually. And it's really just pride and selfishness. And some people even use it to justify bad behavior. Like, who am I? Why does it matter? I'm nobody. I can get away with it, or I can be a jerk to you. I shouldn't have my behavior shouldn't have an impact on anybody. I'm nobody. It's another way people use it, just to allow themselves the selfish gratification of taking actions they know are inappropriate and unhealthy to harm somebody else, to be selfish and completely self-centered, right? So this terminology that gets used a lot of time, I absolutely agree with them. Even some kinds of humility are the worst forms of pride, because it just is, or it can be, I guess. It's a better way to say it. Someone just rubbing it in your face, that I am more spiritually enlightened than you are. And that's not okay. It's not healthy. And that's kind of missing the boat on the whole thing. Actually, it's kind of missing the point of this spiritual growth and understanding. So I'm really glad that they wrapped that in to the reading and to this chapter, right? Because people go the other way too far as well, and we have to remember that. But then the author dives right into this incessant record breaking, right? Like you beat someone by a quarter of an inch or half a second, right? And suddenly you become a national hero, and suddenly you become this popular person, or you fly. He gave the example of flying across the country in a certain amount of days or hours, and then someone else trying to do it faster, and then someone else trying to do it faster, and it becomes this pursuit of just self-gratifying fame, fortune, and achievement that people are relying upon to make themselves feel validated in this world, to make themselves feel worthy in this world, when really it has no bearing on their worth. Everybody is given dignity, worth just being a human being, right? But people do this for the fame, for the fortune, the money that goes along with it today. Especially, I love that they put this in there 100 years ago, because what is all social media right now? It's all social media influencers advertising certain products to make money, advertising certain programs, certain this, certain that, all for financial gain, for endorsement dollars, for advertisements from big companies, right? And they put their association, their affiliations with these entities, right? And that's not good. You're putting yourself in a position of vulnerability with these companies, right? For ego-feeding reasons, for pride and selfishness. It happens all the time. And it's kind of heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see, right? Because you can't believe in its authenticity because of the amount of advertising and money that gets wrapped up in these things. When someone's doing, pushing themselves for all of these reasons just for the clout, as they say today, right? And the praise and the recognition, it destroys them in a very real way. People become reliant upon it. People miss the limelight, right? You see this with actors in Hollywood all the time, they stop becoming relevant, and then they act out in a way which is so unhealthy, right? And they desperately cling to these things that they've defined themselves on. Rock stars do it all the time too. Notice the prevalence of substance use in those worlds, right? Because it takes this vacuous hole that they have, it fills it temporarily, and then they start relying on it, and it can't be guaranteed. It can't be guaranteed. So they lose themselves to it. And then they have to find something else to rely upon because their original fix-it doesn't work anymore. People get addicted to attention. People get addicted to fame and the limelight, and they just want people talking about them. So it goes from this really positive thing over to this really negative thing, and they don't care as long as they're relevant. People just want to be on your mind. People just want that preoccupation. It gives them a sense of power. It gives them a sense of relevancy and importance. It gives them a sense of worth and value. It's a false presentation of such. It's an illusion. It's delusional thinking, really. But they'll hold on to that, to the bitter end, to the bitter, bitter end. And they'll just keep moving on to the next thing that feeds that monster, the next thing that feeds that monster, right? Until they're spiritually completely bankrupt and they're lost and they hit a rock bottom. And what's interesting is even the writer brought in the Olympics, because obviously that's been around for a long time, and how it's more about just it's lost this sense of healthy competition, and it's not the they use that word again, comradeship of the nation, and a healthy sense of patriotism, right? It's this desire to be cutthroat and better than the others, right? To egotistically feed the pride. And that's all extremely, extremely unhealthy. And it's not to help unify country. It's not help to do anything. It's just there to hold over somebody, to hold over the next guy, to hold over the next country, right? So it's a external validation for a country as a whole, as with the Olympics, which is amazing when you think about it in that capacity. But it is true, right? It's a very, very true thing that it's lost this sense of goodness to it. It's lost this sense of wholeness to it in a lot of ways, right? And it goes into it mentions football. So, but I think I believe he's talking about American soccer, right? And how it's become these spectacles in the immensity of the thing. It's not the game itself. It's just how huge it's become. And it talks about they've lost the fellowship of what that sporting event should be, like the sportsmanship of the entire thing, of healthy competition. And people have adopted the team as their identity, right? Like, we all know people whose mood is directly impacted by their favorite sports team. This is not okay. You should not have a bad day because your football team lost or your soccer team lost, right? That should not dictate the week following. That should not dictate how you treat your significant other, how you treat your children, how you treat your coworkers and your boss, the effectiveness of your work. If it is doing that, there is an issue. It has become commonplace that people put these, what we'll call false idols, over everything else. They define themselves by the team they are a fan of, with overwhelming ferocity and tenacity. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Their team has become an identity. And this is another one people will bow down to. Now, they said, we do not I'm glad they included this. We do not need to be carping spoil sports or to have great knowledge of crowd psychology to envisage the great danger to civilization. This change from healthy competition to widespread worship of the God of selfish pride and jealousy. This abnormal idolatry of feats has become. Listen to that again. To the widespread worship of the God of selfish pride and jealousy. This abnormal idolatry of feats has become. What a powerful sentence that is, right? We've put this selfish pride, these identities we've taken on, and then the jealousy of between these teams, between these groups of people, whatever the identity you've assumed, whatever you've taken into yourself and let define you, you are now in competition with every other variation of that identity. I like this sport more than this sport. I like this team in that sport more than that team in the same sport, right? It's just dividing. And people dedicate their lives to it. They are in worship of these things. They are in worship of their sports teams, of their sexual identity, of their religious identity, right? Some people worship the label of Christian more than they worship Jesus and God, right? Some people become so wrapped up in the label and the dogma of a practice, right? And that's just the repeated action dedicated, right? And that can be dogmas associated with a lot of things, not just religion. It's just something done. It's repeated action done in a religious way. Now, how many people sit at the same seat while they're watching a sports game, right? How many people have to attend in person? They've got season tickets to their favorite sports team. That's the same thing. You are worshiping that thing. You are letting it run, control, and manage your life. It's amazing. And we don't even know it happens. We don't even see it taking over. And yeah, this can be for your favorite sports team or your favorite player on a sports team, right? How many people get in arguments over LeBron James and Michael Jordan? I don't even care, but I know that's a common argument. Holy crap. I hope I didn't get that wrong for all those who are watching. But this made up competition of who is better and who needs to do this, and this obsession with the comparative is extremely unhealthy. It's such a strong association we take with our opinions that we are defined by our opinions and our affiliations, and it's not good. It makes us so easily manipulated and so easily reactive to things and so easily controlled, right? But it doesn't always have to be sports. Like this could be any athletic figure. It could even be a chess champion. This could be your favorite teacher. This could be your favorite artist, right? This could be your favorite band. How many people you can, and call me shallow, but you can almost see what type of music, you can guess what type of music with relative certainty that they listen to by the way they dress and carry themselves, right? Because they've idolized and prioritized that music to such an extent it's become a part of their identity, right? Their clothing changes, their attitude changes, the way they walk changes. Everything about them is changed to reflect the worship of this thing, of this man-made entity. That's idolatry. That is putting something between you and the God of your understanding, you and the universe, between you and goodness when you do that. Anything you put between you and God will cut you off from Him, will cut you off from that power, that energy, that source, that way of life that we have so much longed for, that when we find it, we can't believe we put anything in that place. But until we get there, we don't realize how much we've actually slotted in for them. That's good. And this could be a family member that you look up to. This could be your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, right? And even if they are a good example, that is not the place for them. That might be hard for some to hear, but even if they are a good person, that is not the place for them to be, is in that place of worship for you. You need to put the God of your understanding there. That consistency, that goodness that you can follow unwaveringly. Instead of a sports team that might lose and then your whole week's ruined. I'm making a joke of it, but it's the truth. And then they give us this ominous warning that was, I believe, to be taken very seriously. Other civilizations have worshipped the same God towards the end of their glories. He was talking about selfish pride and jealousy. Is that a sign that we are towards the end of our civilization now? It's a very big question to ask. Arrogance, ego, pride. Pride cometh before the fall, as they say. Have been definitive features and characteristics of so many countries' downfalls. They get complacent and they get convinced of their own magnificence due to this world rather than a correct orientation to God, and they take pride and ego, and their ego develops and becomes attached to that. They remove God from the question or from the equation. They place themselves in that position of God, and guess what? They just get destroyed. They fall apart. They've lost their way, their direction. They have no rudder anymore because they've placed themselves in a position of glory, right? And then the country falls to pieces. It becomes weak. It erodes from the inside out. because the conviction is gone. The integrity is gone. The direction is gone. The purpose is gone. And I have to say, I see this manifesting in our world today in a very real way. In a very, very real way. People putting themselves above everything else. People putting their idols above everything else. Their identities above everything else. To serve themselves only is a goal of too many. That creates this divisive, split pool of people that have no desire to repair and to grow and to become something more. It's selfish. It's delusional. It's self-righteous entitlement. And it's brought down many nations before. It's kind of an earmark to be on the lookout for. And I do believe we need to be aware of this in Western society today. And after this, it goes straight into a very short 3-word sentence. It says, jealousy is selfishness. Yep, absolutely agree. It is that extreme domination of self, which is the most unprofitable side of mankind, right? Jealousy is a domination of your thoughts about yourself. Jealousy is, I defined it kind of as jealousy is a self-obsession centered around perceived injustices, right? Like, I deserve that. Why don't I have that? I should get that. They don't appreciate that. I'm better than they are. Why are they getting these good things, right? I deserve them, right? And it just breeds this discontent or malcontent, you could even say, right, towards another person or institution or country or people or whatever demographic, whatever you want to say, right? It creates this hatred because you feel like an injustice has been done to you. Like they're taking something away from you that is rightfully yours, right? This jealousy is so insidious. It's so hellacious and toxic. And we have to watch out for it. We're just people, right? We're just people, human beings, and it can show up from time to time. It's not a surprise, but we need to be aware of it and we need to address it as soon as possible. It's crippling spiritually, right? Because what happens when you're jealous? When you start to become consumed with the jealousy, right? First of all, you get miserable, but you also get blocked off from God. You get blocked off from that source and energy, Mother Nature, right? You just become completely obsessed with what this world has not given you. And when all you're doing is thinking about you, there's no space to be thinking about God. There's no space to be thinking about others and being unselfish, which is the point of this chapter. We lose the context of the whole thing, right? All we are is, I want to get what I want to get, and the world's not fair until I get it. And we push people away. We become angry, frustrated, resentful. And we just get more miserable. And guess what? Jealousy only contributes misery to the world in a very large way, right? That's what I was saying. It's in the book, it talked about that. It adds nothing healthy. It adds nothing good to the world at all. It provides some type of motivation, but when something is achieved through jealousy, then vanity will set in. We'll talk about that in just a second, but then it's like, I'm better than you because I have it, right? Jealousy is not a good place to find motivation, because guess what? You'll always be having to satisfy that jealous feeling. And after a while, you won't be able to. After a while, you'll realize nothing's good enough. After a while, you'll ask yourself, what is the point? I have all of these things, and I am still not satisfied. So jealousy as a whole will only ever contribute misery to this world. And jealousy, not only is it crippling to a person, but it cripples nations as well, like organizations as well. Jealousy is not, it had a quote about it in this second half of the chapter, where jealousy is not an individual problem only. It is a problem of nations. It is catastrophic to a nation when a nation is jealous of another, when a nation wants what another nation has and tries to just take it from it, whether it be resources or concepts and freedoms or whatever it might be, right? It's jealousy is, I don't even know the right word. It just takes over. It can infect everything in every area of life. It is a powerful corrupter of people and nations. And it's something to keep in mind as you go throughout this world, that jealousy is the one thing that has destroyed so much. There's a lot of things that have, but jealousy, I do believe, and selfish pride has done so much damage. It promotes, and the thing is, jealousy usually begins out with the small things, right? And it can be anything, like a promotion someone else got at work over you, right? Suddenly you feel an injustice was done, a perceived injustice, right? It's not always true. That's what we think happened, right? And then, or someone else is getting an attention, right? This can be in a friend group. This could be in someone you're attracted to. This could be in any capacity in the business world too, right? Another business is getting the attention you want your business to get, right? Like this could be if you idolize a sports team, right? Someone else beating your team, there's jealousy there. How dare you? We should have won. We are the better team, blah, blah, blah. People get really wrapped up in that. And guess what? People make really bad decisions under the influence of alcohol and a loss of their favorite sports teams, right? People do some pretty terrible things at the end of the day. And it can be vicious. Over what? Over what? We really got to take a look at that. Like, what are we throwing away our life, our integrity, our goodness for? Just to make someone feel pain because our team didn't win? To harm someone because they got promoted before we did? There's a lot that we need to take a real honest look at if we want to address this. And I feel like this is an appropriate time for me to say, like, one of my absolute worst defects of character was jealousy. God, I wanted what everyone else had. I never was satisfied with anything that I had. It took a long time for me to be content and happy with enough. I didn't know what enough was. No amount of money I made, no amount of people around me, no amount of relationships, no amount of material possessions, whether it was a car or an apartment. By all accounts, I was living a pretty happy life, and I couldn't stop using heroin and cocaine and drinking. I was so miserable and jealous of everybody else and the things that they had, whether it be material possessions or spiritual possessions. And I thought I should have had those as well. I was entitled to them. Why did they get them and I didn't? When it turns out I was the problem the whole time. I used that misery to justify so much bad behavior. Absolutely so much bad behavior. And I didn't realize. I thought it was okay. I thought if they get upset, that's their problem. Really, they should really look at themselves to see why I felt I needed to take from them instead of them just giving to me. They should have just been given to me freely. I was entitled to what they had. What a horrendous mindset I had. It was horrendous. I hurt a lot of people because of thinking that way. I took from a lot of people that I shouldn't have taken from. because I thought that way. And it started with little resentments. It started with little jealousies too, by the way. It wasn't some fell swoop or one big thing that just overpowered me. It was a little thing here, it was a little thing here that left unchecked, as I said in the book. And the best part about it was it talked about, they moved pretty smoothly into jealousy and vanity. And what you have to realize is jealousy is the other side of vanity, right? They're actually interlinked, because I said it earlier, but jealousy is you have something and I want it, and I think I deserve it more than you. And then vanity is I have something you can't have, right? Look at me. Let me validate myself. Look at my ego and my prestige and my the amazing way I do this, or this amazing thing that I have, or this, that, the third thing, whatever it might be, right? It's just when you have jealousy and you obtain something, it turns into vanity. You have no appreciation for it, except for the fact you get to rub it in other people's faces. They're both comparative. One's out of resentful self-centeredness. The other one's out of arrogance and pride. Both egotistical. Both horrifically unhealthy. Right? Vanity is the downfall of many as well. And they're both comparative. Right? What do they say? Comparison is the what is it? Oh shoot, I forgot what the saying was. But it robs us of our peace. Comparison robs us of our peace. Because we think of us as being better than, and then we have to maintain that, right? We have to make sure we're constantly staying better than and pushing ourselves out of fear and insecurity, right? And we just end up destroying ourselves with this reckless sense of desire and insecurity. And those are the things. Then goes into this. I loved it. It is this quote about a family that starves themselves to buy a piano that they can't use because the neighbor has a piano that they can use, right? With that keeping up with the Joneses mentality. Like, my neighbor's got a new car. I've got to go get a new car now. They've got an expensive car. I have to go get a more expensive car. They've got a lawnmower. I've got to get a better lawnmower, right? They have these lights. I need those lights, right? It's this constant competition with each other for this sense of pride and ego and identity of being the most affluent person on the block, or whatever it might be, right? This keeping up with the Joneses mentality robs you of living. We do stupid things. I'm sorry. We do stupid things just to make us feel better instead of less than, right? We buy things. There's a quote that was made popular by Chuck Palahniuk in Fight Club. There was a couple variations of it that happened beforehand. But this is really in modern times where it came from. Yeah, it was from Fight Club. It's we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. Now, that is such a popular quote because it is so absolutely true. It rings true to so many people, including myself. Like, who am I trying to impress, and for what reason? And why should I financially harm myself or put myself in a situation that would cause long-term stress and complication when all it is satisfying my ego? Why do I need to do that? I don't. Simple answer. I do not need to do that. It's my vanity. It's my jealousy that drives it. And I am so grateful that I have that awareness now. I am so grateful that I have that awareness now. So, I did want to read this part. Jealousy, envy, and pride are the cause of our own little wars, right? That better than the neighbor, better than the next town, better than the next state, better than the next country, right? Cause our own little wars, which we fight with our relations, friends, or neighbors, either in private or in the public life, Before these petty wars with others can cease. We must make peace within ourselves. We know it is as useless to compete with someone who refuses to compete with us as it is to play a game with someone who will not play. If we stop, the war stops. If we are not interested, those who go on fighting find their joy and zest in the fight evaporating. Aloofness from wars of jealousy, envy, and pride does not necessitate our being self-satisfied. It merely requires spiritual common sense plus a sense of humor. We just have to stop doing it. Stop participating in it, right? Find peace within yourself and stop participating. And guess what? They'll stop paying attention to you. But you have to be okay with letting the drama go. So many people are addicted to the drama and distraction of other people's lives that they don't want to stop. They like the resentment. They like the competition. They like the who's doing what with who and what's going on and who's got this problem and that problem. You know, the whispers behind closed doors about our neighbors, not in encouragement and support, but in condemnation and judgment for self-satisfaction. We have to be willing to let that go. It serves nobody, and it harms many. It harms many. The solution is just to stop participating. And then they go into this portion about how selfishness fuels class hatred, jealousy, and vanity clash, right? Like that little keeping up with the Joneses type of thing that I just talked about, or that misery from jealousy, spurred on from jealousy, that discontentment with life because of a jealous perspective, right? That causes a clash between the classes in a society. I believe we're experiencing that today, right? People look at those who have when they have not and say you are selfish, and those who have look at those who have not and say so are you, right? And then those who have not want to use the law to get those who have to act in a certain way. And those who have do everything to stop it. Those who have think they're entitled to behave the way they want to behave because they have earned it and they own it. Now, I will not argue the fact that they have earned it, most of the time at least. But I do believe there is a sense of responsibility each individual has to have for facilitating a better world, for contributing to a world, for helping people to grow. Now, I don't believe that needs to come from anyone else except for God, though. I had that pause because we were going to talk about it a little bit later. So we'll pick this back up in a minute here. But it's really important to realize it's jealousy and vanity that provide this clash of socioeconomic demographics in our world as well. It's kind of heartbreaking to see, actually. And people that have and that have not become completely, thoroughly selfish because all they're thinking about is themselves. And they give a great definition of selfishness. This is what selfishness is: when we allow our spiritual and material possessions to possess us. A man without wealth can be just as selfish as a man with a fortune. Now, is that not the most true thing I have heard today? Because a lot of people just associate selfishness with material selfishness. Oh, you've got $100, you can't give me 50 cents type of selfishness, right? Or you've got this, I need that, right? Like this selfish thing. But selfishness is a mindset regardless of external factors, right? If you are feeling jealous because you have not, you are selfish. If you are feeling vain and ownership and possession of things, you are selfish, right? The selfish is just how it manifests different. That doesn't mean it's a better way. That's still misery. That's still hollowness. That's still spiritual bankruptcy at the end of the day. And we have to realize that those things need to be addressed from the inside. They need to be addressed internally, right? And this is, I want to read this last paragraph again because it is such a beautiful paragraph. Nothing can take away the vital, invisible part of each one of us, which is God's alone, because it is invisible. Some of us think that part of us is non-existent, forgetting that things we cannot see are often more important than the things we can, meaning the lack of money or material wealth or whatever you might want to put in that slot. By trying to the best of our abilities, under the direction of God, we can, if we take to ourselves absolute Christ-like unselfishness, arrest this world-spread stupendous waste of good materials and equalize the positions of our fellow men. Neither laws nor civil bloodshed can ever accomplish this change to just administration of wealth and possessions. It is the duty of each one of us to bring Christ into the problem. There it is. We need to bring God into this. And that is done on an individual basis. We cannot use the government to fix this problem. It will never work. It will never work. No revolution will fix this problem. This is a problem of moral integrity and moral fiber and the adherence to a God of your understanding's moral conduct. To do the right thing, to bring in righteousness and Christ-like unselfishness. Absolute Christ-like unselfishness is what they said, right? And again, I know for those who don't follow the Christian practices, right? Whatever you want to insert into this, but that practice of absolute unselfishness and to encourage the goodness in your fellow man. That is done on an individual level. You cannot write into law someone's moral practice. It does not change them as a person. People go to prison all the time and they come out the exact same way and do the exact same thing. The only time they stop is when they choose to change themselves. An external forced change will not work. Constricting laws will not work. It might have a temporary effect, but it will not be permanent. You'll get stuck in this game of whoever has power changes the landscape for their own benefit, right? It's a selfish game we're playing. It's a self-centered game we're playing at the expense of many, with no true resolution in sight. The resolution is a spiritual solution, and it needs to be practiced on an individual basis by all, those with and those without. And I know that's not necessarily a perspective many want to hear, but that's what they talk about in this book, and I actually believe that to be true. Because selfishness cannot be removed through a man-made law. The only way my selfishness, my vanity, my pride, my jealousy, my egotistical way of living could be changed was through the help of the connection to a God of my understanding. And it is through that faith and that work and that trust that I have actually been able to change the way I live and view this world. But it was not easy. And there was nothing in this world that did it for me. So no revolution. There was no law. It was only God. And I do want to say this. We need to be very careful. We do not place God in that role. Or excuse me. We do not place the government in the role of God. Right? The government is a man-made institution given the power to oversee the people of that it is responsible for. Again, it was only given that power by the people. Right? It will always be fallible. So it needs to be appropriately placed. This is some accountability on an individual basis is what needs to actually happen. It is the duty of each one of us to bring Christ into the problem. And that's the end of the chapter. Absolutely loved it. I hope y'all enjoy it as well. I'm looking forward to the input on this one. And I apologize for it being another long one, but I hope you guys get as much out of it as I do. So thank you all so much. And I will be looking forward to getting started on the last absolute love next week. So until next time, thanks.